Hi, everyone. I'm Meteorologist Catie McNeil here with another edition of Beyond the Forecast. And we are talking all about severe weather today, not specifically tornadoes, but more just general thunderstorms. We've seen a lot of severe weather lately across our area. And speaking of, we just had a widespread severe weather event, which brought a lot of damage this past Thursday. And I wanted to take a look back at a couple pictures that we were seeing here. So first, we have a storm damage picture. This was out of Bristol, Warren area from Dorian Costa, and you can see a large tree down. So typically in a lesser scale wind event, you may see some dead limbs or smaller limbs fall down, but we saw numerous reports of large trees and branches down across the area. This one kind of falling on a fence here. And let's take a look at our next one. We also got several hail reports. This was sent to our chief meteorologist, Tony Petrarca, in the Foster area here. A lot of hail, quarter-size hail reported from these storms that we saw here. And then the next one, this was a pretty amazing photo here. Another large tree down. This is from a lane in Cranston. And we saw power outages for a few days as a result of this. The timing was not great, unfortunately. It was the day before the 4th of July. So a lot of people off on holidays and also a lot of people out and about that got caught in these storms, and the damage was extensive. Still recovering from the cleanup efforts from that. And we saw more severe weather after that as well that is now bringing enhanced cleanup. So with that, I want to dive a little bit deeper into the event itself here. So this was on July 3rd. And so kind of some of the impacts that we saw that I already mentioned a little bit. Numerous trees were down across the area. We saw many reports, hundreds of reports through Connecticut, Rhode Island, and parts of Massachusetts as well, with trees down. Thousands of outages as a result of this through Rhode Island and southeastern Mass and Bristol County. With this, we also saw very heavy rainfall, which brought localized flooding to certain areas. Oaklawn Ave, a common problem spot here, saw that as well. And we saw some structural damage. Some buildings were damaged. I believe Fall River, the siding of one of the buildings came down, so bricks came down. And so further on with that, let's take a look at some of the wind gusts that were recorded. So this was a straight line wind event. So we saw wind gusts varying across the area, but a lot of the damage was wind related. So not necessarily a flooding event here, but we saw wind gusts upwards of 70 miles an hour reported in Warwick at Connecticut Point, the lighthouse there, Fall River as well. Other spots saw wind gusts over 40 and over 50 miles an hour as well. Bristol, Rhode Island, close to 60 mile an hour wind gusts. And mind you, the speed at which this line of storms came through caused this extensive amount of damage in a very short amount of time. And with that, so we got some hail reports. We showed you that picture here. Quarter-size hail was reported here locally when that storm came through. And certain things need to be in place. You need to have somewhat of an updraft within the storm to be conducive for hail development. But you can see the hail size differences here. So in order for a storm to be considered severe, the hail has to be at least an inch in diameter. So we kind of just met the minimum there with the quarter size hail. But in these huge supercells that you see sometimes out in the Midwest, you can get up to grapefruit size. Sometimes they call it gorilla hail out there. We have not seen that here locally, but certainly in these huge storms out in the Midwest, that is a possibility with very large towering updrafts associated with those storms. But here, again, we saw quarter size hail, so not quite big enough to cause any damage, but certainly left it looking a little bit more like snow or ice on the ground when all was said and done in those locations that saw hail. So again, you can see here where the severe levels are, a quarter size and up. So we were at the minimum end of that scale. The largest end is that softball or grapefruit size hail, which is not very common, but can certainly happen in some of these larger supercells. That would be exceptionally rare to see hail of that size. Ours is more to the edge of uncommon to rare, but if you're looking at severe levels, again, that is the minimum requirement. So with that, let's take a look at that updraft speed versus hail size. So that grapefruit size hail would require almost 100-mile-an-hour updraft speed to produce hail of that size. Here we were seeing winds kind of on average, as I mentioned, around 50 to 60 miles an hour, some isolated higher wind gusts as well. But with that, we were seeing kind of that range around 50 miles an hour for the potential for quarter-size hail. And of course, we got some of those reports across the area as that one particular cell moved across Foster, western Rhode Island, then towards the Providence area, continuing eastward at that point. So with that, this storm was not classified as a microburst, but certainly had some of the similar characteristics with those strong straight line winds. Now, a microburst, one of the reasons why it can be so damaging is because of the speed as the air kind of accelerates out of the system, pushing downward. As it hits the ground, it is forced outward, creating a straight line wind effect. So as the storms continue to move straight on, you're getting these very strong straight line winds pushing through the area at a relatively quick speed. And this is usually in addition with heavy rainfall and sometimes that hail as well, which can be particularly damaging when all of those factors kind of align together in a severe weather event. With that, let's jump into safety a little bit more here. So some things you want to know, obviously, unfortunately, with that severe weather event being in right at the middle of the holiday weekend, a lot of events going on for the 4th of July, a lot of people were caught out in these storms. So obviously that is not ideal. You don't want to be caught outside. Luckily, there were no injuries or fatalities reported, but certainly with large trees of that size falling down, that could fall on someone's car when someone's driving. We did see reports of that could fall on a person. A large limb could fall on you, as well as just getting caught in any wind debris damage flying towards you or debris flying towards you in any strong winds. So with that, first and foremost, you want to be paying attention to any warnings that are issued here. These come from the National Weather Service. There's many stations across the country, so they will be issuing the watches and warnings, which we then relay to the public here on the news front. With that, you want to stay away from any windows, especially in stronger winds there. You could see debris flying through the air, hitting windows. We did see some reports of that as well. Fall River, I believe, an umbrella flew through a window, and that could be a very dangerous situation if you happen to be right in front of that window when that is going on. So with that, you also want to shut off all electrical equipment. Of course, a lot of lightning associated with these storms as well. And if driving, you want to pull away from trees. So if you're driving through a wooded area, probably your best bet is either to try to get out of that neighborhood or pull off somewhere that's a little bit more open. There's less trees around because, as we saw in these strong straight line winds, trees easily can fall down, which can then be damaging, hit you or your car, which is not the type of situation obviously you want to be in. With that, also you want to try to seek shelter if possible in a sturdy building, and leaving mobile homes as well. And this is more in a tornado or very strong wind event, but mobile homes are usually the first to see more catastrophic damage versus a regular home or a more sturdy foundational building. With that, what classifies a storm as severe? So I know we always are throwing out these labels, severe thunderstorm watch or warning. So when the warning is active, that means that National Weather Service, as well as us on our end, we are looking at the data and we're saying, okay, this storm is meeting the requirements to be considered severe. So it has to meet at least one of these requirements. And we saw, I believe, all of the requirements with that particular storm on July 3rd. So winds of 58 miles an hour or greater, and hail at least 1 inch in diameter. Very heavy rainfall is usually accompanied with this, but it is not a requirement. That may be a flash flood warning, for example, if the other two requirements are not met. But a severe thunderstorm requirement specifically is these two categories, and we did see a culmination of the three: very heavy rainfall, these high wind gusts, and hail as well as that storm moved through western Rhode Island. And with that, I wanted to get into a little bit, this is something we talk about all the time, Storm Prediction Center, which is kind of the headquarters, a team that works on severe weather specifically. They're based out of Oklahoma, near the University of Oklahoma out there. I've been to their station. It's really cool to see, but they are an elite kind of exclusive team of people that specifically works on severe severe risk levels and ranking them across the country per day, which, of course, in more extreme severe weather events, they are kind of the people that are letting everyone know, hey, this is something you want to take seriously if we say do get to a 3, 4, 5. So a 5 is the most rare. That is a widespread severe storm level that is expected or anticipated that is likely going to happen, which is long lasting and can produce widespread and dangerous tornadoes. So we do not typically see that around here. I don't think we've ever seen a level of that high and that I can remember here. We have had larger tornadoes, but to have a level 5 is capable of producing multiple damaging tornadoes over a long span of time. Typically around here in southern New England, we either see 1, 2, maybe 3. 1 is the most common, marginal, level 1. That's isolated severe thunderstorms. So I believe on July 3rd, we were in a 2. The other day, we were in a 1. So with that, doesn't mean that it's not a chance, a high likelihood, especially around here. A 1 or a 2, typically we're still taking pretty seriously since we don't see severe weather overwhelmingly compared to other parts of the country. A 2, scattered severe storms, so maybe instead of just 1 severe storm or 2, you're seeing multiple, which was kind of what we saw on July 3rd. That whole line moved through, and that would be a little bit of a higher risk level. Now, 3 enhanced, numerous are possible over a long period of time. We're also looking at, the higher potential for tornadoes as well, and that incrementally goes up from there, heading up to a 4 and a 5, which is the most dangerous levels that you could see. And we saw some severe weather events this past early spring or late spring and early summer that were 4s or 5s in the Midwest. And again, that is kind of the top dog, the highest level that you're kind of worried and aware of what's going on, expecting a large-scale severe weather event, but we do not typically see that around here. So with that, of course, lightning specifically, you don't need a storm to be severe warned for it to have a lot of lightning, and lightning is one of the most dangerous facets of these storms. So with that, when you hear thunder, you want to go inside, because even if it sounds far away, there is a high likelihood that the storm may be nearby, especially if you don't have access to radar, you're not seeing the direction or where the storms are in that moment. You want to just go inside, find shelter, or go inside your vehicle. Of course, as I was taught growing up, the rubber wheels are good insulators and will protect you from that lightning if you're inside. You also want to avoid using electronics, any open bodies of water, so no swimming, and avoiding windows as well. And you want to wait 30 minutes after that last rumble of thunder before you go outside and resume those outdoor activities. And with that, let's take a look at some lightning fatality locations, kind of where we typically see deaths regarding lightning here. So under trees is the highest. And that is because the height of the trees, it's almost like a beacon. Lightning will go to the highest thing it can find. Obviously, trees are the most common. So if you're standing directly under a tree and there's a lot of lightning around, there is a high probability that you could get struck. So that is the absolute no-go. Water, a misconception is that, if you go in water, you'll be fine, but water is a conductor of electricity. So that is not a safe option either. That is the second most deaths you see. Next would be a yard or open area, field, things of that nature. You say, there's nothing around me, it should be fine. But the thing with that is you are then the highest point of conductivity that lightning is going to find. So that is also not a good idea. Again, so there's all these other deaths that we've seen, fatality options. But what you want to do is just go inside and either seek shelter or, again, go in your car. Those are the safest places you could be. Being outdoors in general is not safe if there's lightning around. And these are fatalities from 2006 to 2023. But under trees is the top fatality reason that we see, not a place you want to seek shelter if there's lightning around. With that, another dangerous facet that we see with, again, not only severe storms, but just flash flooding events where you're not necessarily seeing thunderstorms, but you're seeing a lot of rain, creating these flash flooding events. We just saw this awful situation here in Texas where hundreds of people have died now. And so with that, some precautions you can take here. So you want to have an emergency plan in place, obeying evacuation orders if they're issued. And obviously in that case in Texas, there's been a lot of controversy over the warning times, things of that nature. But this is exactly why you want to be paying attention to these things, because you want to get as much of a start time as possible if there's heavy rain coming and you need to seek shelter. There usually are evacuation routes here in Rhode Island. We work closely with Rhode Island Emergency Management. There are evacuation routes and shelters if extreme flooding is expected. So you want to kind of keep up to date. They have all that information on their website, and the flood map will show your risk or zone based on where you live and where your evacuation route is. So with that, you want to obey those evacuation orders if issued. We do not see evacuation orders issued here unless it is a highly serious situation. And with that, you want to find higher, drier ground. Obviously, you do not want to be at a lower elevation level, especially if flooding is expected. You want to wait for that water to recede and never drive through flooded roadways. We say this time and time again. We see these problem spots like Oak Lawn Ave where there's always at least one car stuck in the water there. You want to avoid driving through. If you see any puddles of water ponding, just avoid it altogether. Your car could make it through, but it's just not worth the risk. And you never want to walk through flooded waters as well. There's a lot of unknown risks below the water, even though you think, oh, it should be fine. I don't see anything, but they're in a bad flooding event. There could be lots of debris, metal, wood, anything that could hurt you, cut you, things of that nature, as well as electrical lines. Again, electricity conducts in water. So again, do not walk through flooded waters. And you want to wait till the water is, you don't want to wait till the water is there to evacuate. Again, you want to heed those warnings ahead of time and try to get yourself to your safe space or evacuate if needed. And with that additional flood safety info, if you're in your car, this is what you don't want to do. You don't want to be driving in the middle roadway. We see this time and time again. So for you, your person, if you were walking through, you only need 6 inches of water, moving water, that can knock you over, especially if there's rushing water. And this is a whole other topic, but storm surge, things of that nature. This is water moving very fast that can easily knock you over. You only need 12 inches of water, moving water, to lift your car up. And then at that point, if you are stuck inside your car, it becomes a much more dangerous situation, obviously, which is why we say turn around, don't drown. You want to just avoid that situation altogether if you can, to just, eliminate the factor, potential to put yourself in a dangerous situation. So with that, another factor for safety is, and one of the things we saw with this event was that a lot of people were caught outside with the holidays. A lot of people at the beaches had their phones off, things of that nature. And we've heard numerous reports of people saying they had no idea anything was coming. And of course, luckily, there were no injuries or fatalities, but that could have been a very different story here, especially with the extensive damage that we saw across the area. So with that, there are things that you can do ahead of time to prepare yourself. And obviously being weather aware, we say this all the time, is the number one thing. You want to be paying attention to your news outlets, paying attention to social media, and just putting a note in. It doesn't mean you need to cancel all your plans necessarily, especially if the timing is conducive for plans to still go on. But you want to be paying attention. Okay, I heard, Channel 12 pinpoint weather team saying that these storms are supposed to come through after 4 o'clock. Maybe I should plan my day ahead of time so that I'm not caught in the middle of that. Just that simple step of making a mental note in your mind of when things are coming through can save yourself a lot of stress and panicking when then the storm is actively approaching. And with that, we have tools here as well as on a statewide level that can help you with that. Our app, our Pinpoint Weather 12 app, where you can get real-time notifications. And so with that, I was able to speak with Armin Randolph. We've talked a few times about these notification apps that you can download. Code Red is the one they use. We have our Pinpoint Weather 12 app. So I want to toss to a conversation I had with him in a package regarding more information of what you can do to make yourself more prepared.
Across parts of our area from Thursday night severe storms, and we're watching for more stormy weather potentially moving in.
It's important to be as prepared as possible should severe weather strike. Meteorologist Catie McNeil has more on what you can do to stay weather aware.
In the summer months here in southern New England, thunderstorms are not only common, but can turn strong to severe very quickly if the right ingredients are in place. This is why it's so important to keep up to date with current forecasts with the proper tools this time of year. Southern New England is arguably one of the best places to be in the summertime, with lots of outdoor sights and scenes across the area. But those hot temperatures and high humidity levels that we often see here in the summer months can really set the stage for thunderstorm development when a system is moving through. When severe weather strikes, it strikes fast and can quickly turn your plans for the day upside down. And although you might not be sitting in front of your television, there are several options to keep you updated in real time when you're on the go. Our Pinpoint Weather 12 app gives current notifications of impending weather, but your settings within the app are crucial to getting the most important information. Within the app settings, you can select your weather notification types, which range from current precipitation and lightning alerts to watches and warnings from the National Weather Service. You can also check the latest hour-by-hour data and updates from our weather team. On a statewide level, we work closely with the Rhode Island Emergency Management Agency, who utilizes their Code Red mobile alert app, which allows you to set a personal warning radius to receive community-related alerts from REMA directly.
There's certain things we can push out or information we can push out related to maybe the impact or after the fact, or if there's a certain area we want people to stay away from, we'll push information out.
And in addition to the app, you can always check our website, WPRI.com, for any weather-related updates to keep you safe and weather-aware, not only for the summer months, but all year round. In the Weather Yard, I'm meteorologist Catie McNeil. So certainly some good information there. Just a reminder that you have these tools at your fingertips. You don't need to be sitting in front of your television to get the most important information. Now, of course, there are certain notifications such as tornado warnings or flash flood warnings. Those are two weather ones that come to mind in addition to other community warnings that will be issued out through the federal government. So those you cannot turn off. But other notifications such as a severe thunderstorm warning, which caught a lot of people off guard the other day. That is something that you can turn on in the app, get those real-time notifications with not just the warnings and watches that are issued, but also real-time lightning notifications, rain notifications, and it'll tell you the radius and the amount of time when the rain is supposed to start. So that can give you just even more of a heads up. If you've already seen the watches issued, you're seeing the timing that we forecasted and that we've been putting out on our air checks on air as well as online, and then you're getting those notifications, you have a pretty good lead time and idea of what's coming and how to plan your day. Of course, our main priority, same thing with the National Weather Service and Rhode Island Emergency Management Agency, is to keep all of you safe, but you have the tools accessible to you as well when you're anywhere to get this information. So really important stuff as we continue on this summer, and I'm sure we'll be seeing more opportunities for severe weather to come through. So as always, you want to just stay weather aware and stay prepared now in the event that something were to happen again in the future. Thank you again for joining us on another edition of Beyond the Forecast. We'll see you next time.